This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, the American Academy of Ortho-Keratology and Myopia Control, which is currently introducing its new base membership. What is base membership? Well, it's the AAOMC's new free introductory membership type, designed to help educate doctors on myopia control and orthokeratology. Whether you are brand new, an experienced fitter searching for pearls, or someone who's dabbled in the past and ready to step up their game, AAOMC base membership can help, and it's free. So what do you have to lose? Go to orthokacademy.com, click on the practitioner button, and join us. Join the war against the myopia epidemic. Welcome back to The Corrected View. It's a podcast about myopia control, Ortho-k, and the people devoted to its role in specialty care. My name is Matthew Herzberg. I'm the host of the show. I'm the executive director of the American Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control. And my guest for this episode is Dr. Gary Gerber, who you may know from the Power Hour, you may know him from the Power Practice, and you may know him as the co-founder of Treehouse Eyes. Gary, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for inviting me. Excited to be here.
Excellent. And the reason why I wanted to have Gary on this episode is there is the regular question that comes up in our circles about optometrists, Ortho-k and myopia control, and dabbling versus going all in. So I guess I wanted to bring Gary on to have that kind of conversation. And so I figure, Gary, why don't you tell us a little bit about Treehouse Eyes for context, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Treehouse Eyes, we're a company devoted exclusively to myopia management. We have 26 locations around the country. Some of them are company owned, and those centers just do myopia only. The original two were kind of like the proving ground for the concept. Can you have a practice that just does myopia management? The answer is yes. And the other ones are licensed locations inside a existing primary care office. So we would go to a doc who already does some myopia management and wants to do more and show them our way to do it.
So if I'm an optometrist and I don't want to bother with myopia management, if I don't want to do Ortho-k, I can work with Treehouse Eyes, and you guys will come in and put your setup in my practice and handle all of that, all of those patients.
Almost. You have to certainly, which we'll talk about tonight, you certainly have to want to do it. And you have to have some basic degree of clinical acumen. The biggest challenges we'll talk about are the doctors that dabble, that get frustrated. It's like, why can't they just get this thing off the ground? And that's what we're really good at.
I got you. All right. So what I want to start with is the question of, when it comes to dabbling versus going all in, is, do you think that eye care providers have an obligation to do myopia management?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like you could ask me the question, do doctors have an obligation to treat glaucoma? Do they have an obligation to let's make it a little bit more granular. Do they have an obligation to treat a convergence insufficiency, right? Or a binocular vision problem? The answer is yes. Doesn't mean they have to do it themselves. But they need to be aware that myopia is not just an optical inconvenience and give the kids stronger glasses every year. So they should be treating it, and they can certainly do it themselves. It's certainly within the purview of any OD to treat myopia. We just want it to be done right. My concern with doctors that dabble, who don't look at it as their obligation, is that the treatment outcome may not be optimal. And therefore, when the mom comes back the successive year and the kid's eye got worse or gets worse, and the doctor didn't set the expectations properly, it can rapidly get out into the community that myopia management doesn't work. And it's sort of like, if you look at the genesis of VT, VT is a great therapy when it's properly prescribed for the right kid, and it's done by doctors who know what they're doing. And there are a lot of dabblers in VT, and it happened through the years, And I think that's one of the reasons VT got such a bad rap, is that doctors just went overboard and making some crazy clinical claims and just dabble. But the guys that do it right are rock stars. So I just want to make sure myopia doesn't go the same way. So to your question, yeah, we have an obligation. The science is rock solid. This isn't 1980. And
Mhm.
we know that we can really make a profound difference in the lives of these kids, and we need to step up and take care of them, or send it to somebody who will, or co-manage with them. But it starts with just the recognition that, yeah, myopia is a problem. We got to do something about it. That's indisputable.
Right. And you mentioned that the science is rock solid. And, I spent a lot of time poking around on like forums like ODs on Facebook and whatnot. And what I see a lot of the time is this question of, well, show me the science, show me the studies. And I think a lot of optometrists are looking for this definitive proof in that, um, you know, if we reduce myopia, then all of the other disorders and diseases that are worse because of higher myopia, the correlation between those two. And I was wondering if you could speak to that. Like there's a resistance to the science and the studies, and why that doesn't seem to be the convincing factor in
Yeah,
that argument.
so I think there's a resistance to read the studies.
Okay.
I believe the data's out there, and if they really want to go deep on this, they got to spend the time to read it. You're going to have non-believers who say, we don't have you can't point me to a single paper that says if I use treatment X on this kid, that Y is going to be the outcome. You could say the same thing for a glaucoma drop, for a dry eye drop. Every time you give Restasis to a patient, it doesn't work. Every time you give a you tell how frequently I treat glaucoma, right? A prostaglandin analog to a patient, it doesn't always work. So
Mhm.
there is no perfect linear solution. Tylenol doesn't take care of everybody's headache,
Right.
and myopia treatment does not work on every kid 100%, 100% of the time. And those doctors who come up with those lame arguments are making excuses for their own inherent inertia, laziness,
Hmm.
uh, just don't want to change. And they're in myopic denial.
Okay.
I think we have to come up with a new phrase, MMD, myopia management denial.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm copywriting that when this is over.
All right. You got it. Yeah. I mean, I think there's just a general state of disenfranchisement with optometry. You see again on these forums, you have docs who like their own son or daughter is interested in becoming an optometrist. And I thought it was a joke at first when I first read this online, but they were like, my son wants to be an optometrist. What do I do? And people's responses are, tell him not to do it.
Yeah, go be a plumber. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I give you some advice. Don't go on those forums anymore. That'll be life changing. Take Facebook off of your phone. Think how much
Sure.
time you'll save. So look, I've said on a power hour many times. I have two kids. My son's out of college. My daughter's finishing up college. Neither one had any desire to become an OD, and I was pretty bummed out by that. Look, like every parent says, they just want them to be happy, and they just decide
Hmm.
they didn't want to do it. Um, I still think it's a great career. And I think one of the reasons it's a great career because of things like myopia management. I mean, talk about having a specialty that we can own and totally crush when it's done right, especially now with so few doctors doing it. So yeah, doctors are disenfranchised. They've been beaten up by all the entrepreneurial challenges. There's a sense in optometry that nobody has it, that no other professions have it as bad as we do, which is absolutely ridiculous. If anybody's listening and they have any friends that are self-employed, be they doctors or somebody who owns a donut shop or a dry cleaner, um, ask them what the number one challenge is. They're going to say employees.
Hmm.
If you have a patient who owns a gas station, he's going to say OSHA, getting people to show up for work.
Right.
Everybody has that. I think optometrists, it's a sweetheart gig, and it's just unfortunate that you read stuff like that. I honestly I've been thrown off a lot of forums in my life, and then every time I do it, I don't even attempt to go back because there's just so much negativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying something like soar with the eagles instead of playing with the turkeys, and
Hmm.
that's yeah, perfect example for some of those forums.
Yeah, I'm the son of an optometrist, and I did not take over the practice. And but I work with optometrists. I mean, my father and I developed the AAOMC into what it is today, and you know, I got a lot of pressure from other optometrists who had that same crushed kind of feeling of like, what do you mean? Like, you're not going to take over the legacy? And it's like, my heart's just not in it. It's just not something I'm interested. I enjoy working with optometrists
Right.
way more than I enjoy being one, would enjoy the idea of being one.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Which look, you gotta love what you do. My frustration with myopia management is our Treehouse Eyes doctors that work with us. Once they get into the zone
mhm,
and we show them how to do it, these guys love two things. They love myopia management,
mhm,
especially when we get them from dabble to prime time. And honestly, they've told me that it's kind of sparked the interest back in their career. It's just so
right.
cool. Matt, think of it this way: we're taking an optical device, and with an optical device, we're causing an anatomical change. Like that is the freakiest thing ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of the disbelief comes from. How can you change the optics in a contact lens and make a kid's eye not grow bigger? Like, where does that come from?
Mhm.
And it is. It's hard to believe that we can do that, but it's like the coolest thing ever that we can do. And then you look at all the things that are going on with combo therapy and atropine and the new types of atropine that are coming down the pike. It's an awesome time to be doing it. So doctors not doing it are really going to be kicking themselves. My concern is that ophthalmology takes it away from us and totally blows it. Like I said, they won't do it the right way. They're starting already. They're giving kids 0.01% atropine and calling it myopia management, which we already know doesn't work. That doesn't work as good as if they did something else. Let's put it that way.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying completely. I mean, I try to put myself in the framework. I mean, I didn't become an optometrist, but I'm trying to put myself in the idea of that mindset. Maybe that's where I'm going wrong here. Because, the Academy, we're a nonprofit organization. We're devoted to research and education. We teach doctors how to do Ortho-k and myopia control. And so I'm always trying to get into the mindset of someone who has gone through optometry school, has developed their practice with certain kinds of guidelines. You see the patient very quickly, you sell them on glasses and contacts, you adjust, and then say, I'll see you next year after which is better, one or two. And so many of the members of our academy have said that just didn't cut it for us. That was really killing their drive to, pursue, private practice. So it seems like to me that myopia control is like that breath of fresh air. I mean, our president, Paul Levine, like that's the point he was at when he decided to learn how to do Ortho-k, was he just got bored with one or two, see you next
Yeah.
year.
So in fairness to our colleagues, eyeglasses are about 700 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been asking which is better, one or two, in one way, shape, or form for 700 years and giving the kid a pair of glasses. So talk about forming a habit. So I can't fault the docs for having that kind of belief system that there's nothing wrong with glasses because we've done it for so long. Um, and glasses are, with the current state of myopia management, at least in the US, eyeglasses are still 100% necessary for 100% of the kids that we treat because we don't erase myopia. We can't make the kid's eye smaller. Um, if the kid, obviously the doctor's listening to this. If somebody has LASIK done, they're still myopic. Um, so there's no way that I'm aware of to erase myopia, and the kids still need eyeglasses. So until we get, at least here in the U.S., when we get myopia managing eyeglass lenses, which hopefully will be here soon, and I think that will change things a little bit. But again, as long as the doctors really understand the science and don't just haphazardly prescribe them, they have to measure axial length. I mean, they got to do it for real. I think that might change things up a little bit. But I just think we've been prescribing eyeglasses for so long, and we have an entire think of it this way: if you walk into a doctor's office, it's set up to sell glasses. It's physically
Mm-hmm.
set up. You walk in, and the first thing you're besieged with are 1,000 frames. The
Mm-hmm.
biggest piece of real estate in the office is typically the optical. Um, the office is designed, the whole mojo is designed around the optical experience. I'm not saying any of this is bad. I'm just saying that's how it's been for so long.
Right.
And now we're saying, okay, take that, turn that upside down. We're not saying get rid of it, but minimize that
Mm-hmm.
and focus more on the disease state of the blurry distance vision instead of the optical refractive state. That's a pretty big ask, but
Yeah.
obviously it can be done. I mean, your dad did it. He was one of the first to do it for real. We've now replicated it 26 times with doctors who were essentially non-believers. So it's doable, but you gotta want to do it. You got to commit.
Yeah. And speaking to the whole setup being designed around glasses, and yet, like, I'll have a friend who wants to show me an app where they can measure their prescription on their phone, where they can get themselves fitted for glasses through Warby Parker by using an app, where they can save money on frames, and just get their prescription. And I'm like, you're killing me here. I'm the son of an optometrist. What are you
Yeah.
doing? You know? But like, that's the very real reality, is that the consumer is going to find these shortcuts or these more cost-effective options, and the technology is going to become more widely available to have them circumvent the process. So my
Yeah.
question is, how
Yeah.
do you look at that for what it is and make that necessary change? Because when I talk to optometrists, like at when I have a booth at other meetings and whatnot, that is a long conversation. And it starts with, do you do any myopia control or myopia management? Do you do any Ortho-k? And it is not a quick and easy conversation to talk about what we do and our education and our meetings. So with Treehouse having, the 20 something, 25 locations that you mentioned, I mean, what does that process look like? How do you guys take somebody who would start out as a dabbler and convert them into a true believer?
So let me just tell you, when you're at a trade show, a better question to ask them is ask them if they do any dry eye or if they do scleral contact lenses.
Hmm.
And you'll have more doctors say yes to that than you will to myopia management,
Hmm.
right? The next, or you can ask them, do they treat allergies in patients? And they'll say yes. Ask them if they treat glaucoma. They'll say yes. So then you can give them some stats. Let's talk about scleral lenses and keratoconus, because that's something that comes up all the time. Um, the percentage of patients in the United States that have keratoconus, if I'm being generous, like super generous, is probably 0.5%. Right, the percentage of patients that have dry eye that's treatable is probably 10%.
Okay.
Right, those are real numbers. Right, percentage of patients that have glaucoma, generous, 4%. Add those all up, that's 25% of the myopic population. You got 42% of it's more. Everybody quotes 42.6% Sperduto study. It's 2004, but that's the last one that we have. So we're probably safe to say half the population in the United States is myopic today, and all these guys are messing around with. Yeah, I want to do dry eye in my practice. I want to go out and spend $100,000 on a dry eye treatment widget, when all I have to do to treat myopia is probably spend, maybe to get a totally rocking practice, if they're not doing much, maybe spend $30,000 and make it back in 10 kids. So we're just focused on like the shiny penny of, I want to do something cool like scleral lenses or dry eye. I don't know what to say other than it's just like really stupid. The data just doesn't support putting your energy there, when every kid walking, and I really mean this, every kid in the United States is not myopic yet, but
Hmm.
nearly every kid that walks into an OD's office is myopic, because the low hyperopes don't come in because they're asymptomatic.
Hmm.
So you probably have 8 or 9 out of 10 kids coming into your office are myopic. And you're going to say, well, I do a lot of medical billing. I want to treat glaucoma and dry eye. Fine, you keep doing it. I'm not saying don't stop, but the myopia opportunity is literally 20 to 30 times bigger than either one of those. So that was my tangent on how you should speak at a trade show. But anyway,
Sure.
all right. So, so the Treehouse Eyes experience is starting with a doctor who really recognizes that, yeah, this is an opportunity. It's our program's not for everybody. You have to, like I said, you have to have the desire to want to do this. So based on what we've said so far, that probably eliminates maybe 99% of our colleagues. Okay, I'm exaggerating, right? Um, but you have to have a desire to do it. And I honestly think a lot of doctors do. They just don't know where to start, and they don't know exactly how do I do it. How do I do this without interrupting my primary care practice? I don't want to stop doing primary care. Maybe I do, but I don't want to stop doing dry eye, allergies, whatever. So it kind of starts with that. We have an online form thing that they can fill out. It's kind of a like a filtering mechanism. We look at it. We ask them some metrics. What percentage of your practice, for example, is patients between 30 and 45 years old. And the reason we ask that question, because people say, well, don't you want to know how many kids I see? Well, not really. Because if you have a primary care practice, what we care about is how many parents of myopic kids that you see, because that's what we have to tell this story to. We'll tell it to the kid eventually, but we got to talk to the parent first. So we go through metrics like that. We ask them about the size of their office, how long they've been in that location, things like that. So we have that as a filter. If they pass through all that, the actual process after they sign up with us, it's pretty intense. We have what we call the Treehouse Eyes Academy. Um, it's a training session that happens over 8 hours. It's three separate days, 8 hours total. We go super deep into all the consumer research that we've done. We have spent literally at this point 6 years since we launched. We have over $2.5 to $3 million invested in the company. A big chunk of that was in research. So we got the explanation. What do you say to the parent? How do you qualify parents? So we have examples where all parents are not the same. We have three consumer profiles. We actually gave them names. We have Hira, Alicia, and Darren. When Darren walks in, you speak one way. When Alicia walks in, you speak another way, because everybody doesn't consume information the same way. So we'll teach them how do you identify those three cohorts. What do you say? We go deep into our own clinical protocol. We had our clinical experts. We have literally the best minds in myopia put our clinical protocol together, which is when to use which treatment on which kid. We have a process patent that we've applied for that. We think it's the only one in the world, actually. I'm not sure, but I think it is. We go into all the branding. Why is it called Treehouse Eyes? Why do the colors look the way they do? How do you leverage that? All the marketing things that need to be in all the forms, the documentation, the informed consent, the fee agreements, all that stuff. The follow-up schedules. What do you say to mom on the phone? The FAQs. Why doesn't VSP pay for this? And on and on and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a full-time digital marketing manager to make sure that their website looks correct. We have a full-time training manager to make sure all this stuff actually gets done and execution gets done. And we titrate it to them in the proper order, so the right task at the right time, so it gets done. So they get a lot by working with us, and the results are great. We have doctors who most of them were previous dabblers. We have doctors in markets you would never think would be myopia hotspots. Amarillo, Texas, Indianapolis, Indiana. These guys are doing 10 kids a month after maybe 6-7 months with us. So yeah, it works. It takes some time, especially initially, to get it all set up. Just like anything else in the office. Think of how much time it took a doctor to set up his primary care practice so he was able to sell his first pair of glasses. I mean, that's a ton of work. You got to get your EHR template set up. You got to get your fees set up. You got to get your staff trained. All that to sell a plus 175 pair of reading glasses to the first patient. So the first ones work, and after that, it becomes self-propagating.
I see. So, so I'm picturing this process. Like I've seen pictures of how you guys do it. Like you have special wallpaper for the exam rooms, right? You have special, like you were mentioning with the branding, like everything looks a specific way. And then,
Yeah,
mhm,
it all looks a specific way for a specific reason based
and
on the
that is
research. Yeah, and then what happens is with all the doctors, Treehouse Eyes, it's kind of like a almost like a store in store concept. So think about a the Starbucks that's in downtown Chicago by you. If you walk into that
mhm,
Starbucks, it's 3,000 square feet. If you
mhm,
walk into the Starbucks at O'Hare Airport, it's a 100 square foot kiosk. So our company center is kind of the flagship testing lab model where we got it all figured out. That's about 1,600 square feet. A doctor's exam room is 100 square feet. So we take all those design elements that matches up the look and feel of the website. It's got the same emotional connection to the site, the consumer brochures, the information you're going to give to a pediatrician. It's all got the same look and feel. It's all well branded. And then when the parent finally walks into the room, it all makes sense and it's all connected. And that's what helps get a lot of the moms across the finish line. So the room looks really cool. That's really like the cherry on top. We have doctors that have not yet even converted the room that are doing great just because of COVID. They couldn't get contractors to come in. So the room conversion is not a 100% essential piece. That's not the thing that makes it work. It's the whole thing in total that
right,
makes it work. It's kind of like McDonald's doesn't sell a lot of burgers just because of the golden arches.
right.
It's the whole system and the whole process that makes it all work.
Yeah, everything is trained to a certain point. They've done a lot of research, developing their overall product, and it isn't just what you're ordering off the menu. That thing is a machine. So,
Yeah, yeah, and it's with us, one of the advisors, he actually has a board seat on our company. His name's Don Fox. He's the CEO of Firehouse Subs. And you may say, why do we have a guy from Firehouse Subs working in a myopia management company with such a high level position? Um, it's to the exact point that you said. Everything that we do is done for a reason. We have to make sure we can scale it up. So if it works in Bethesda, Maryland, it has to work in Jacksonville, Florida. And that means the same thing has to work in Chicago. It's got to work in Indiana. It's got to work in Jersey. And as we grow and we start to get more of a national footprint, there's more recognition. A lot of this happens with our social digital campaigns where um, the parents come in and they see, I think I heard you guys, Treehouse Eyes is starting to ring a bell. I think you're the myopia guy. So we're starting to get to that point now that our footprint's getting bigger. We'll have 50 locations by the end of next year. And were it not for COVID, we probably would have had 32, 33 this year. But still for since we started the licensing model, it's about a year and a half. We got to 26. So we're all things considered with this COVID mess, I
yeah,
guess we're doing okay.
yeah. I mean, we had to cancel Vision by Design because of the
Yep.
pandemic, and our Ortho-k boot camp for newcomers program, every year does phenomenally better than the year that it surpassed it, and that it's surpassing. And so, you look at with the state of the pandemic and the economic downturn, and this is often the time where ODs are looking at the way they do things and they're thinking to themselves, maybe it's time to reinvent myself. Maybe it's time to give myopia management a try. And it makes me wonder, like, once we can go back to in-person meetings and once we can, get past COVID, like, what is it going to take to get myopia management to go prime time? Like,
Yeah, look, it's all the stuff we're talking about. Doctors, they just gotta. It's not even a leap of faith anymore. I mean, I think what's gonna look. I wish every OD in the country. Well, I don't wish everyone was a Treehouse Eyes doc because some of them we don't want to work with. So let me just reel that back a little bit.
mhm,
So we we will continue to sign up more locations with the right docs who really care. Right now, that said, all the doctors that are not Treehouse Eyes docs, I want all the rest of them to do myopia management, and I want them to do it really, really well because that's going to just grow the category. Talk about a rising tide. Talk about that
Mm-hmm.
cliche. Um, we and we have, speaking of some of these forums, we've gotten beaten up, especially when we launched, that you guys are going to destroy Ortho-k. You're going to destroy myopia management. You're going to do like a kind of low budget corporate version. You're going to take patients from doctors' offices. I wasn't about to tell anybody what our future business plan was, but now you know what it is, and it's working, and it's high quality. So my point is, we are, and we always have since day one, we are training other doctors very, very close to our Treehouse Eye centers how to do myopia management. We do more CE, I think. We'll probably do, in this year alone, in 2020, we've probably done 50 myopia events. We did a bunch of live ones up until COVID, and we've just done a ton since COVID. And you can make an argument, we're training our competitors to do myopia. And the answer is, yeah, we are. You know why? Because there's 15 million myopic kids. There's enough to go around.
Yeah.
It's crazy for us, based on everything that we've learned. It would be crazy for us not to share how to do this the right way. We're not going to give away brand secrets. We're not doing that. But the actual science and everything we've learned, and off the wall case studies, we share that stuff all the time. We have 2 this week, because we want this done right. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to take more of that. The one thing with COVID, I don't want to let this go without talking about it. One of the silver linings in COVID, um, and I just wrote an article about this in optometric management. I think one of the great things about COVID is that it's really helped myopia management. And
Okay.
I'm not saying it from a perspective of it's caused a lot of kids to become myopic. That would suck. Um, what I'm saying is, it has indirectly raised awareness of myopia, because what we're seeing in our centers is that moms are walking in and they're asking the doctor something like, all this time my kid's spending on their computer, which is now literally 8 to 10 hours a day between
Right.
school and fun, that can't be good for their eyes, is it, doc? And the clinical answer, the genuine clinical answer, is we don't really know. We don't think it's good, but we can't point to a conclusive study that says digital devices cause myopia. We all think it does, but we can't prove it. But it's causing parents to think that this can't be good. And we've been training our Treehouse Eyes doc that really opens up a discussion. Like, talk about the mom opening the door to talk about myopia management. And so they're coming in more aware of potential eye consequences. They don't know what myopia is. They don't know digital devices cause myopia, but they know something's not right. It's almost like their parental spidey sense
Mm-hmm.
getting him to ask the doctor the question. And so they'll even say to the doc, "Can you tell my son not to spend so much time in his computer?" Yeah, like that's going to work, right?
Right.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, I think that COVID has really given doctors the opportunity to blow the doors off their myopia
Mm-hmm.
program. I think you guys, if you guys get your meeting back on track for next year, um, I think it could. And I'm obviously a big fan of the meeting. I love what you guys do. Um, I think you're going to blow the doors off attendance for any
Mm-hmm.
previous one, because I think first of all, people are just itching to go to a meeting. I think they just want to get out of their
Right.
house. I'm kind of zoomed out myself.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what our 2021 situation looks like, because after canceling 2020, it's the logistics of trying to put a meeting together when you're only allowed to have a certain number of people, and they have to all sit 6 feet apart from each
yep,
other at a bare minimum. And you obviously can't do food the same way. If you do an exhibit hall, everyone's going to be moving in very specific directions, and it's
yeah,
just a headache after headache after headache. And so what we've done is we've already started working on a virtual version of our boot camp, where we're going to record the same lectures, and then we're going to give we're going to give docs an opportunity to sign up for it and have access to it for more than just a couple of days, which is what usually happens with a virtual conference. Is you just watch the courses for a couple of days. But as you know, this is dense stuff.
Yeah.
So, we're going to do a virtual boot camp and give attendees the opportunity to learn this stuff online in between when we can do in-person meetings again. So,
Yeah, I don't envy you guys trying to pull off a live gig. I just can't imagine. Look, I mean, I see what doctors go through just to get one patient through the door,
mhm,
right? And you guys want to get a couple hundred through the same door
yeah.
at the same time. Yeah, look, if we can help you with anything, you know where to find me. But yeah, good luck, and we'll certainly support whatever you do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it was you guys should definitely get involved. It's I don't know if you've ever heard of like the master classes series or the great courses. It's like they give you a certain amount of time, like 6 months or 3 months or a year, whatever the case may be. And so that gives you an opportunity to learn, uh, like, learn from some, like Steve Martin teaches comedy on
Right.
Masterclass. So, we got the experts. So why not, set up a program and give attendees the opportunity to actually sit down and have some time with it. And then more
Right.
part of that program is also going to involve a a community where, because I don't know about you, but I've noticed over and over again is this trepidation for docs to ask questions. And maybe it's my personality. It's like I have no pride. If I want to know something, I'm going to come ask you. Gary Gerber's the expert. I'm going to ask Gary for the questions that I have. So, but for whatever reason, other optometrists are very hesitant to ask those questions. So we're going to create a safe environment for new docs so that they can talk with each other, talk with the lecturers. We'll make the introductions to the people that can answer those questions and give them a safe
It's
environment.
great. I think
So
it's a great idea. Yeah. So
yeah,
we gotta look. We can't stop the myopia management education train because of COVID, because the
right,
kids are not going to stop.
right,
Uh, yeah, I've told when we launched and we were getting bashed online. Um, I never put this stat out, but the reality is if we snapped our fingers and we had 100 locations, okay, 100 locations. If each of those locations did 1,000 kids this year, which is highly unlikely, but if each one treated 1,000 kids, that's 100,000 kids that Treehouse Eyes took care of. There would still be more myopic kids coming into the pipeline that we could treat. Right?
right.
Think of it that way. Right?
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, look, myopia is not stopping whether or not you guys have a meeting. So hopefully you and everybody else who's in this space that's educating to get the doctors up to speed and up to date and give them the confidence to do it. Yeah, hopefully the stuff continues.
yeah. That's our goal for sure. So, all right. Well, I think that that's covered what I wanted to talk about with you, at least this time around. I've always got questions for you. So, I've
Sure.
had a great time talking with you. And if you'd like to
Same
come back
here.
on, we'd love to have you. Is there, for anybody who's interested, where can they find out more about you and Treehouse Eyes on the internet?
Yeah, the best way if it's a doc, it's growmymyopiapractice.com. They can take a look around, and then if they're interested, on the top right, there's a blue button that says Learn More. Just fill that out, and we will send them a video link to exactly how our program works with all the particulars. We're happy to, like I said, we're happy to share. We're an open book. If by chance a mom or a consumer lands on this podcast, because I guess it's the Wild West, it's the internet, that could happen.
For
They
sure.
should go to treehouseeyes.com. In fact, the doctors let her go to treehouseeyes.com. One thing that we did that's really kind of cool, again, in the spirit of sharing that we're talking about. So you go to treehouseeyes.com. If you click on make an appointment, it's not like our company site pops up. You see all the doctors around the country pop up. So we're listed in there, but it's not like our company centers are preferred providers or any of that kind of nonsense. And there'll be in about 2 weeks, there'll be a doctor locator, type in your zip code, whatever, wherever you are, that's what's going to come up the closest. If you're in North Texas, then Plano, or near Dallas and Plano, Texas is going to come up. If you're in San Francisco, we have 4 practices in the Bay Area, they're going to come up. And we don't have any company centers in either one of those, and I don't plan on moving to Amarillo, Texas. anytime soon. It's a great place. I was there, but I don't think I'm going to move. So anyway, yeah, the best place for docs who are interested in learning more about what we do and how we can help them is growmymyopiapractice.com.
Excellent. And for any listeners who have questions, this is a community-based podcast, so send those to thecorrectedview@gmail.com. And this podcast exists because the AAOMC is a nonprofit devoted to the research and education of myopia control and Ortho-k. And we wouldn't be here without our members, our standard members who, they pay their real life money to support this organization and make this podcast possible. So if this is something that you want to learn more about, check us out at orthokacademy.com. And Gary, like I said, would love to have you back anytime. Continue the discussion. I thank you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Happy to come back. Thanks, Matt.
All right.